Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching from. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video. This is part 2 of the outbreak investigation process. If you have not watched the previous video, please go back and watch part 1, then come here and watch this video. In part 1, we have explained steps 1 to 5. Now, Step 6. Generate hypothesis. Once descriptive epidemiology has been conducted and information about person, place, and time is available, it is useful to reflect on the collected information in order to re-evaluate and rank hypotheses about the causes. Hypotheses are generated by consciously or subconsciously looking for differences, similarities, and correlations. Differences. If the frequency of disease differs in two locations or circumstances, it may be due to a factor that differs in the two circumstances. Similarities. If there are similarities among the cases, for example, many reported eating at a particular restaurant, then that common factor may be the cause. Correlations. If the frequency of disease varies in relation to some factor, then that factor may be a cause of the disease. For example, communities with low rates of measles immunization may have high rates of measles cases. Consider the information obtained during hypothesis-generating interviews, and also consider the location of cases, or spot map, and the time course of the epidemic in relation to the incubation period of the disease, which is the epidemic curve. Step 7. Analytical epidemiology. It's useful to conduct analytical studies to test the hypothesis. Once we establish who is ill, we need to find the factor that is causing them to become infected or poisoned. There are two general study designs that can be used in analytical epidemiology, a cohort study or a case control study. Both of these evaluate specific hypotheses by comparing groups of people, but the strategies for sampling subjects for the study are very different. If the controls are chosen appropriately, this will reduce the bias in the studies performed. Assess exposures consistently between cases and controls, that is, ill and non-ill. Cohort study identifies people exposed to a particular factor and a comparison group that was not exposed to that factor and measures and compares the incidence of disease in the two groups. A higher incidence of disease in the exposed group suggests an association between that factor and the disease outcome. This study design is generally a good choice when dealing with an outbreak in a relatively small, well-defined source population, particularly if the disease being studied was fairly frequent. Everyone potentially exposed. Only use if a comprehensive list available. Relative risk and attack rate are measures of association. For example, a food-based source outbreak at a wedding. Guest list known. Case control study is where identical surveys or lab data are collected from those who are ill and those who are not. We then see if there are factors that are significantly, not due to chance, different in cases versus controls. It uses a different sampling strategy in which the investigators identify a group of individuals who had developed the disease, the cases, and a comparison of individuals who did not have the disease of interest. The cases and controls are then compared with respect to the frequency of one or more past exposures. If the cases have a substantially higher odds of exposure to a particular factor compared to the control subjects, it suggests an association. This strategy is a better choice when the source population is large and ill-defined, and it is particularly useful when the disease outcome was uncommon. Comparison of exposure amongst cases and controls. Useful study if complete list unavailable or is too large. Odds ratio is the measure of association, for example, a restaurant outbreak. Step 8. Refine hypotheses and carry out additional studies if necessary. If analytical studies do not confirm any of the hypotheses generated by descriptive epidemiology, then you need to go back to the descriptive epidemiology and consider other sources and routes of transmission. In addition, even if analytical studies establish the source, it may be necessary to pursue the investigation in order to refine your understanding of the source. Step 9. Implement control and prevention measures. This step is listed towards the end, but immediate control measures may be indicated from the start of the outbreak, guided by the epidemiological results and environmental investigation. Control measures should focus on 1. The control source: animal, human, or environmental. Consider closing the outlet. Isolate and/or treat cases. Destroy or treat food. Environmental health officers may need to take samples if necessary. 2. Protect persons at risk. Consider prophylaxis, such as antibiotics. Improve hygiene and use personal protective equipment if applicable. 3. Interrupting transmission. This depends on the mode of spread. For example, using bottled water if the water supply is contaminated with cryptosporidium. Step 10. Communication of findings. When the investigation is concluded, it is important to communicate your findings to the local health authorities and to those responsible for implementing control and prevention measures. The communications usually require both oral and written reports. The written report should follow standard scientific guidelines, and it should include an introduction, background, methods, results, discussion, and recommendations. Another thing we can look at is communication during and after an outbreak. 1. During an outbreak, agree on a media strategy at the initial outbreak control team meeting and review it at every meeting. Provide information to the public and health professionals. 2. After the outbreak, publish and disseminate the outbreak report. Make recommendations. The media strategy to use should ensure accurate and timely information is relayed. Consider which type of media to use and for which groups. This could include social media, secure communications, sensitive information, and ensuring the anonymity of cases. Media attention may be necessary if public action is required. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please give this video a like, leave a comment, and share it with your colleagues. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and share it with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for similar informational videos. Bye.